Hello, debt rebels, and welcome to the show today. I am your host, Jewlz, the budget nerd, and we are talking about back to school, but not like making sure you got all your pens and pencils back to school, but you've got backpacks, the lunches already, everything is all set, and then you realize that your child has lost their brand new water bottle on day 2. Or if your back to school budget only included pencils and notebooks and you feel like you got blindsided because there are those expenses that no one warns us about. So today we're going to talk about what those are, and especially the tax attached to back to school. Back to school time feels so nice, right? Because we get to transition to a new routine and we can get back to the routine, because if you're like me, summer is really fun and I love the carefree spirit that the summer can bring, but also it can be a lot, especially when you're parenting and all of the things come up as back to school does. And then we add our lovely ADHD to the mix and life just gets all types of out of whack. So what I want to talk about today is the ADHD tax, which actually isn't a tax. It is, if you haven't heard this term before, it's that extra money that we spend because of some of the things that come with doing life with ADHD. So it's that forgetfulness, time blindness, impulsivity, maybe procrastination, or just that we're just trying to manage all of the things and life just gets in the way. So it can look like, especially this time of year, it's having to pay for faster shipping for things maybe that you forgot about that you need right away. Maybe it is buying that other hoodie because what in the world happened to the last one? Or it's those headphones that you're replacing for the third time. Maybe it's late fees, or it's buying lunch because you didn't get lunches packed. So all of those things are real. This is real life for ADHD moms all over, and especially in back to school times. So the goal here is not to be able to do all of those things perfectly and to do those well. It is to figure out what kind of supports you need to put into place to help reduce how often those things happen. And so this is something that our family goes through, and especially as it goes back to school, but in like all areas of our life, when something like this comes up and I've had to, buy something, maybe it's rushed, or if I have to, buy something I already have before because I can't find it, or it's just completely left the planet, it feels like sometimes. How do I fix this for the future? How do I change this from something that's going to be a regular thing to maybe not as often? Because when we reduce those things, that's going to help us give some more breathing room in our budget, but also it's going to help build that confidence for ourselves and build that trust back with ourselves that, you know what? We can do this. So some of the common back to school things that can really sneak up are those things that we can lose or we might need to replace. So water bottles, hoodies, jackets, lunch boxes, headphones, chargers. Oh my gosh, the chargers is a thing in our house. Pencil pouches, PE clothes. And you know what? Some of these things our kids are going to lose. And especially if your kids are living life with ADHD as well, then we can lose those things on a regular basis. And you know what? It has nothing to do with the kind of person you are. It just means that we want to add that into our budget and we want to create a category for those things. Because you know what? The one thing that we can control is that we know that those are going to happen. And so one of the ways that you can support yourself and your family best in that is to add that into your budget. And it could be that, oops, I forgot money. And so this is going to help you also when you put this into your budget. It's going to be the thing that's going to keep you from going back into debt or keep from adding to that debt load. So things like lunch money or those field trip fees that come up because, oh my gosh, this is your child's first time in 4th grade and there's this huge 4th grade field trip they're going on, right? But you don't necessarily know about it until right before the money is due, right? So things like that, picture day, Spirit Week. Can we talk about Spirit Week? So what those costumes and stuff look like. So having that, it's, you can use it as a sinking fund where you've got that money that is designated for these things, permission slips, for things that are going to require some money for whatever reason, last minute school supplies, or maybe you have to overnight something from Amazon or somewhere else that just has to be done at a certain, has to be in your hands at a certain time. Then there's some of those social expenses that can come up, especially with back to school stuff. So book fairs, school fundraisers, that fun run that your child really wants to participate and needs to get donations for, teacher gifts, classroom parties, birthday invitations. I know especially as, kids go back to school and they reunite with their friends or they make new friends, those birthday invitations can come in fast and furious. And so having some money set aside for those birthday gifts. So some of these expenses that are more on the social side of school, they don't feel mandatory until your kid comes to you and says, "Hey, I really want to do this." And they're ready to do the activity and they need the money to do it. And so having a little bit set aside in your monthly budget for these types of things, because we know that they're going to come up, is just having that set aside so that when your kid comes to you, you can confidently say, "Hey, yes, let's do this," or this is a priority to our family right now, so we're going to do this. The other thing is the schedule disruptions of back to school. This is something for me. I feel like we get into a summer routine and then we've got our back to school routine and things can come at us very quickly. And this is an area that's easy to get sidelined financially because the schedule interruptions are a little bit more intense in the finance area because it could mean, you know what, you need childcare for your child when they get out of school earlier, or maybe there's conference day. And so there's childcare, you got to get to work, but you can't take your child to work with you, right? So maybe some additional babysitters, there's the extra gas that you're going to need for back to school, whether you take your kids to the school, take your kids for drop off or the bus, that kind of stuff. And then any after school signups that they come across that they want to participate in. That also takes me to the seasonal school events that maybe there's fall festivals, holiday concerts, and they have to have special clothes, for that concert. School photos, that's another one that pops up. Maybe those winter classroom parties, the Scholastic Book Fair, which I have a soft spot for the Scholastic Book Fair. My daughter and I love volunteering for it, and she usually picks out a book for it, and it's a big part of our celebrations at school. But also, I put that into the budget because I know that that's something that's of value to her, and it's important for me that she has the opportunity to participate. That it supports the school. I should do an episode soon on the school fundraisers, but the Scholastic Book Fair, that's one that I have fond memories of, and I would love to create those memories for my daughter. And so we put that into the budget. So if it's of value to you and your family, I highly suggest adding that in there. So let's talk about why ADHD families feel this back to school transition in a more maybe aggressive way than neurotypical families. So first off, executive function, right? So we're going to talk about time blindness. We think, oh, you know what? We have a whole month left of school, we have a whole month left of summer, or you know what? We have a week left, and then all of a sudden it's here. Or maybe, we're just going with, the day-to-day life of summer. And then all of a sudden, because we don't see it, we don't see the backpack on the hook because we've put it away for the summer, or we don't see those cues that it's time to switch into a new routine, then we can forget and we not see those things. Maybe the decision fatigue. Maybe there's a lot of things going on. Back to school requires a lot of decision-making for parents. And so figuring out, okay, is that an area where you need some additional support? Then there's the emotions that can come into our spending after a stressful morning, or, finally getting our kids to bed at night and we're just like, oh my gosh. So, and we will go to, online shopping, that kind of stuff. Maybe it's that last minute scrambling of just like, okay, you know what? Here, I'm just gonna buy this. This is gonna solve all of my problems. I want to make sure that you hear me say this isn't because you're irresponsible. This is your brain managing dozens of invisible tasks every single day. And so creating these supports for yourself will help reduce the amount of tasks that your brain is trying to process and allow you to make more confident decisions with your money. So you're probably saying, Jewlz, okay, tell us what to do. What if you created a real life school buffer? So this can be for those things that come up, and it's creating a buffer so that those things stop being like they stop feeling and cueing to our nervous system as an emergency, And it could be something that we confidently and mindfully say, yes, that fits with what our family is considering important for this season. So, and give it a name. Maybe it is school stuff. Maybe it's the Oops Fund. Maybe it is your ADHD tax buffer. Because you know what? One thing I always lost when I was a kid was umbrellas, which is kind of ironic living in the Pacific Northwest. Most people don't have umbrellas here because we do. We lose them. And so my mom stopped buying me umbrellas. That's how my mom solved that problem. But if that's something that you find yourself, okay, you know what? You forgot your water bottle at basketball practice and you don't have any more, grabbing a new one. That might be the thing. And so having that buffer built into your budget so that you don't have to feel that shame and regret or that guilt. It happens. Okay. So giving yourself the grace. So what would this look like? What would this little buffer look like? Maybe it is just putting every paycheck, putting in $20 into that fund or 30 or 40, whatever makes sense for you and your family. And then when that water bottle disappears, you've already got the money there. And so you don't have to, put it on the credit card. You don't have to feel that guilt or the panic. You're like, okay, you know what? This is what we're doing now. Just like when you run out of food, you buy more food, right? So a few things that have been really helpful for us is we got those labels on Amazon that have our last name on them. And so we stick those on everything. And so even, clothes and stuff like that, you can stick them on the tag. They go through wash. It's fantastic. So that's really helpful. Maybe it is buying a couple extras of some essentials that aren't super expensive that you can have on hand. So, maybe it is we have a couple of plastic water bottles that are backups because we like, other water bottles of, different materials more. But what happens if you don't? So we've kept a couple of those plastic ones around. Maybe it is having an extra lunchbox or saving last year's lunchbox. It might not be perfect. It might not look great, but let's keep it on hand so at least you've got something. And then maybe this has been helpful for us as well is creating a little, command center by the door that's got, the backpack, that it's got, shoes, the water bottles, everything is ready so that when we go out the door, you can just grab it and go. And then maybe looking at what some of those back to school activities could be, looking at the calendar. And a great way to do this is to look back, especially if your child was at the same school. Obviously, they're going to be in a different grade this year, but if you can look back and see school-wide, is there certain activities that you had on your calendar last year that you can move to this year's calendar so that you can plan ahead for those things? And then, setting aside that little bit of money for those things that get lost, setting aside a little bit every month for those things that are going to get lost, and just know that that's part of how you're choosing to spend your money this month, and that's absolutely okay. Maybe it's creating a checklist by the door that you've got the things that you need to leave before school, and then you're on your way. So the big thing that I want to make sure that you hear me saying, so a few key takeaways from this episode: school expenses don't end after supply shopping ends. So there's other expenses that are related to school, and we want to make sure that we've got some money set aside for those things. So maybe that's replacement of those things, and keeping that as a category and realizing these are not personal failures. This is just a way that you can support your brain, your finances, and your family in this season. And then know that sometimes those expenses, we can predict those. We might not necessarily know exactly when they're coming, but we know, what? Every year I have a kiddo that forgets her backpack, or we can't find it. And so you got to buy a new one. So just knowing those things and then making a plan for those is going to help reduce a lot of that mental load, stress, and pressure for yourself. And then realizing that a small savings buffer is going to help that create that support that you need moving forward. So my challenge, that rebel, this week is to create that one new budget category. So, and then give it a name. I'd love to hear. You can find me on Threads at Jewlz the Budget Nerd, JEWLZ. I'd love to know. Send me a message and let me know what you named that budget category. Was it school stuff? Was it, oops, my kids forgot this fund? Maybe it's that ADHD tax fund. It's not an actual tax, but we call it that because we attribute it to some of those ADHD symptoms that we get to experience. Or maybe it's the oops, I forgot you know what? Or it's the procrastination fund, whatever you want to call it. And then put a little bit in there this week, even if it's just $10, because it's not a matter of if that hoodie is going to go missing. It's just a matter of when. If you're like many of the people in our community and you're just tired of feeling like every single surprise expense throws your entire budget off track, I would encourage you to grab my ADHD-friendly paycheck planner. It's going to help you lay out some of those things. It'll show you how to build that flexibility into your budget so that real life doesn't feel like a crisis every single time something comes up or anytime something goes missing, but it feels like an empowered move so that you can support your brain, your family, and your finances a little bit better. And remember, the goal isn't to eliminate every unexpected expense. It's to build a budget that's strong enough to handle your real life, not this imaginary life or this life that we see on Instagram or YouTube, but it's because in a house with kids, and especially if you're a parent managing ADHD, there will always be another missing water bottle. But the good news is it doesn't have to derail your financial progress. So thanks so much for listening. I hope this episode was helpful, and I hope that you and your family have an amazing back to school season, whatever that looks like for you, whether your kids are going off to school or if they are staying home to do school with you. I hope it's an amazing year, and we'll talk with you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Debt Rebel Show today. Ready to take your family budgeting to the next level? Stop that paycheck to paycheck grind and start living debt-free? Head over to my website, debtrebelpodcast.com. That's DEBTREBEL podcast.com to grab resources, tools, and tips to make it happen. And don't forget, subscribe, leave a review, and if you know another family that would love hearing today's episode, it would be such a gift for both of us, your friend and me, if you share this episode. And remember, your debt-free life starts with one brave step, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. We'll talk soon, Debt Rebel.